Good afternoon, my friends. I would like to share with you the difference between healing and fixing, or regulating and fixing, and using a neuroplastic approach to recover from chronic illness, including bottom up or somatic aspects of that. A lot of people fall in this trap of using their tools to fix their symptoms, which is really understandable because our limbic brain is still seeing our symptoms as problems. And we're also in a lot of distress. So it's really the most common motivating factor is that we're wanting relief. And what this can look like is when you're feeling dysregulated or you're noticing a symptom, you immediately go to, okay, oh, that means I need to do this tool. I need to do my somatics. I need to, visualize. I need to elevate my mood. And it's kind of like there's a problem and we're throwing something at it to try to make it go away. Is the attitude that we can end up in. And I want to emphasize that this is because of the nature of feeling distressed and feeling uncomfortable. This is a pattern that's really easy to fall back into throughout recovery. Even if you get to a point where you're not in fix-it mode most of the time, it's really easy to fall back into that mode when you're feeling really uncomfortable or you're in a lot of stress chemistry. So be gracious with yourself as you practice actually healing and loving yourself and regulating yourself instead of fixing. And I want to explain how this works or what the difference is. The best analogy for this is thinking of your symptoms as a baby crying. And in a healthy attachment relationship, when we have a healthy adult who really loves that child, they're going to pick the child up and comfort them. They're going to hold them and rock them and sing to them and make sure their diaper's dry and see if they're hungry and walk them around and try taking them outside and bouncing them and patting their back and seeing if they need to burp. And they're going to try everything they can to make that baby comfortable and try to understand what they need. But instead of it's coming from a place of I love you and I'm recognizing your cry as a sign that you need something versus this is annoying and I want it to stop now. And you could imagine a very emotionally mature or unhealthy parent just being like, I just want the baby to stop crying. Just stop crying. Damn it. Like, I don't like this, and kind of getting angry at the baby for crying. Or, I mean, that's one of the biggest things is we're kind of, or seeing it as a problem. And that's the other big thing is seeing, and we hear a baby crying and we have this idea that means something's wrong, right? And that's really key because when we have our symptoms, when they pop up, they're cross-wired with a message of danger. And so there's a very real feeling that something is wrong because a symptom is there, which can then lead to also feeling like, well, I'm failing because if I was doing this right, I wouldn't be having symptoms. Something's wrong. I must be doing it wrong. Very easy conclusion to come to, but that's not true. In this process, you're chronically dysregulated and stress chemistry is what generates the symptoms or is cross-wired with them. So you're going to have symptoms on a regular basis. That's when the rewiring happens. Having symptoms is a necessary part of the journey. So it's very different when a mature adult hears the baby crying and realizes that doesn't mean anything's wrong. That's just how babies communicate. It just means they need something, but nothing's wrong. I don't need to feel like I'm failing as a parent. I don't need to feel like there's something really wrong or something bad is happening or there's something wrong with the baby. Even if they don't stop crying after I did everything I could, and I can tell you as a mom of 5 kids, sometimes babies will just keep crying for a while and you just don't know why. That happens quite often and it can be disconcerting to new parents. But in this analogy, it's very common for you to use your tools, and sometimes the baby will stop crying. Sometimes the symptom will disappear. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes for a long, long time, you'll be regulating, but the symptom won't go away. And that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong either. So this next part is really, really key. If you're still with me, hang on for this next bit. So I want to paraphrase something Gabor Mate said that is really lovely. So my words with this is safety, which is what we're trying to create here. We're trying to create a sense, safety is also known as calm or regulation, feeling that your needs are met, feeling safe, feeling okay, feeling good, something like that, is not the absence of distress, it's the presence of connection. And he says it's not the absence of a threat, it's the presence of connection, but I think in this situation it helps to understand it's not the absence of distress, it's the presence of connection. And so what we're doing in times like this is we're adding connection to ourselves. We are stepping in and recognizing, oh, I need something. My brain and nervous system need regulation. I'm going to give them the regulation and know that if I gave them the regulation, that was my job, was to create safety, to create messages of safety and to be attuned to myself and recognize this as recognize the symptom or the whatever's going on as a sign that and give it to myself. That was it. That was my whole job. I did it. I did enough. Even if the symptom's still there, I did enough. That's very, very different. And we're just adding safety. We're adding connection to the experience. We're not trying to get rid of the distress. It's very, very different. And as a funny story with this, I remember when I was about 5 years old, my best friend and I, we were both 5. We lost our moms in a crowd. And I think I lost him for a second too. And then I found him again and I was like, oh, thank God you're here. I felt so much better. But like 2 5-year-olds in a crowd of adults is not really safer than 1 5-year-old in a crowd of adults. But we had we were very, very good friends. And so I felt safe because I was like, I've got my best friend. Like we'll find our parents. It'll be okay. So we were kind of like cheerfully gallivanting around the crowd, yelling for our moms after that, even though like technically we shouldn't have, but the connection created that sense of safety in that unfamiliar environment. So that's kind of a comical example of that. But just know that that's the difference, is that we're coming from a place of love and meeting needs instead of a place of seeing the symptom or distress as a sign of threat and a problem to be fixed. That's the biggest difference. So it's all in where you're coming from within yourself and how you're approaching yourself. The last little bit on this is if someone's ever upset you or disappointed you and they just tried to fix it by doing something like, well, I forgot your birthday, so I gave you flowers. But you could tell they didn't really care. They're not genuinely sorry. They're just kind of like, well, you're mad at me, so I'm going to like take this, like, stop being mad at me. I'm doing this thing for you. Be happy now. And that's kind of how our limbic systems, you can imagine how that feels. It's not a good feeling. So when we're just throwing tools at our limbic system, sometimes when we're not connected, we don't really care. We're not really seeing ourselves as someone who needs love and connection and reassurance. And we're not giving ourselves that. Sometimes the brain will get louder. The cry will get louder. It'll get more upset. The brain will be like, you're not hearing me. Like, I need love. I need you to tell me that I'm okay. And I need you to believe it. And I need you to give me this embodied experience of that okayness through regulation. Just throwing this tool at me is not working. So that's something else too, where sometimes it will escalate if we're coming from a place of fixing. Love you guys.